Hey people, welcome to the Angels, Babes, and Bitches show with me, Ruby. Today, my guest is Bárbara. Bárbara is originally from Portugal and now lives in Finland with her husband and her beautiful daughter, who's 17 months old. Bárbara, tell me something about yourself. Obviously, the juicier, the better.
I don't know if this is juicier. I think I'm a comedian. I like to make everyone laugh. I'm extroverted. I'm super extroverted.
Yeah.
I like to make people comfortable. I like at work. I'm the person who likes to welcome the new people, and at school I was like that. I make a fool of myself a lot of times because I'm like that. But it's all in good graces. I mean, it's all for fun and games. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
I like to make people feel comfortable and okay, because it's always hard to be the new person anywhere.
Yes, it
So I
is.
think that's a big characteristic of mine.
It's a very good characteristic, I think.
Thank you. I hope so.
Yeah. No, please go on.
Yeah, well, I decided to move here 6.5 years ago. And I think, even though I'm very extroverted, I think Finland agrees more with me than my own country. I don't know if that is weird, but I never really identified with my own country. Of course, I love my own country, but I like the way Finns are more calm and they're not very nosy, at least not um, at your face. Not that
Yeah.
I can see in Portugal, people are very, very nosy with
Yeah.
no shame. I don't like that. I like the peacefulness here. And even though they're very antisocial, I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that they don't like talk just for the sake of talking.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
are very matter of fact people, and
Yeah.
even though I'm so extroverted and I talk so much, I do like that about them. I think it makes me check myself
Yeah.
and
Then
learn myself, so
yes.
that's good.
It's very good. Yeah, Finns are they don't have this like small talk culture
No.
like we have in Asia and many other places. There's nothing good or bad. It's just how they are. And I also like
Yeah.
living in Finland myself. Um, so we when we spoke for the first time, we spoke about so many things, like about you and your life. And I know
Yeah.
this is not an easy subject for you, but I think many men and women will be able to relate to this topic. Can you share with us what you went through in your last job in Portugal?
Yeah, that was a doozy. Well, I worked for nearly 4 years at a company in Portugal, and I was initially hired to be their communication specialist just before I had been unemployed for 3.5 years. I would get a job here and there, but it was like 2 months at a restaurant and things like that. It wasn't stable, and it was shortly after the economic crisis hit, so it was very, very hard to get a job. And when I got this interview for this company, I jumped at the opportunity, obviously, and I was initially hired to be their communication specialist, like I said. And then after 1 month there, they asked me if I could move to the front desk just for like a month until they would get someone else, because the person they had there just left with nothing. Like she didn't say anything. She just didn't warn anybody. She just said, "I'm leaving tomorrow." And they were short staffed. So they asked me, and because I had been employed for so long, I wanted to show them that, yes, I'm a team player. I'm flexible. You need me, it's fine. I can do it as I'm doing my other job. It's okay. Thinking it was only going to be for a month. Um, it wasn't. I was in that front desk for nearly 4 years, and I was doing my job as a communication specialist. I was doing my job as a marketing specialist. I was taking calls, taking care of the mail. I was unofficially the secretary to the financial department and the financial director. I was setting up meetings. I was taking care of ordering budgets and ordering whatever it needed to be ordered. I was running errands. Basically, I was doing the job of like 6 or 7 people for less than 500 euros a month.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
quite a lot. I mean, a lot to do. Not talking
Yeah,
about the money, but just the scope of work and how different.
responsibility was a lot.
Yes, yes, the responsibility is a lot, and everything is quite different.
And it was, yeah, between like task from task. And then I was being bullied. That was the
Okay.
worst of it, because I don't mind hard work.
Yeah.
I actually welcome it because it makes me feel proud of myself. The point is not the hard work. The point is I would start work at 8 a.m. and I would have to ask, please, can I go home? And this is not a joke. This is literal. I would have to ask, please, can I go home?
Wow.
Uh, at around, I would leave around 8 p.m., 7, 8 p.m. That was the normal. I was supposed to leave, according to my contract, around
Yeah.
5. That rarely happened unless they wanted me to go to the post office or someplace that would close at 6. Then they would let me leave earlier. But many times I left at 11 p.m., 10 p.m. The normal time was around 8.
Wow.
And it would just be go home, eat something, sleep, wake up, go to work again.
Yeah.
And needless to say, it took a huge, huge toll on my mental health, because not only I was being, well, not well paid for the work I was having, but I
Yeah.
was being bullied.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they were vicious. Like the only thing they didn't do was beat me up.
Oh my God, that's really,
It
yeah,
was
it's
really
really
bad.
not a good experience at all working for an organization like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really, really bad. I later found out, after I was already here, I later found out that they are the CEOs and the people running it had to run away because they were sued for fraud and many other things, and they just were forbidden to run their own company. But they did that to almost everybody there. One of my tasks, one of my jobs, was doing, actually most of my job there was to do human resources work. And out of over 600 employees, I can tell you about 95%
Yeah.
were at that moment or had been under sick leave for mental health reasons,
Oh
usually
my
a
God.
nervous breakdown or a reactive depression. And it was really, really, really bad. And people couldn't complain about it because, in theory, there are laws to protect you. But with all the crisis, this government took place, and they just started taking away rights
Yeah.
left and right. Sorry. And it was bad. Like, you would complain to the organization that you are supposed to complain to, and they would call the company letting them know who complained and what they said.
Oh
This
my
was
God.
done in front of me. I was the one answering the calls. And
It's pointless.
it
This
was surreal.
complaints are
It was
pointless
surreal.
then.
Yeah, of course. People just stopped
Yeah.
complaining. There was no point. And that the weight of it, the weight of having to do your job and being threatened that if you don't do what they ask, you're going to get fired.
Yeah.
And thinking, if I get fired, I have zero help from the government.
Yes. That's
And the
kind of
bullying and
scary.
all of that, it was very hard.
Yeah, that is kind of like a scary situation where you have no one to turn to in a way because there's nobody
No,
supporting you. How many
no.
hours were employees working there on an average per week?
Well, and I was working in the headquarters of the company. They had multiple locations, but where I was, I think we're about 100 to 200 people,
Yeah.
I would say, including people in the office and then factory and maintenance and all of that. I think about, this was almost 7 years ago, but I think 150 maybe
Mm,
in the headquarters.
in the headquarters.
Overall, overall it was about a little over 600 employees.
Okay. So they were, so each of them was working like you. Like a lot of them were working like
Well,
you.
yeah, well, in the office, Me and three other people were the worst cases.
Okay.
But then the people who were in the factories, they were forced to do overtime, and they weren't getting paid for it. And if they've refused,
Yeah.
of course, you can always go get unemployed. It was always there was always a threat, always a threat, and humiliation. They made it a point to humiliate the person. They would scream at you in front of other people. They would tell you these horrible things preferably in front of other people, just to demean. There was no point. Like, I was called by the person heading the human resources at the time to call one of the employees that complained. She had a work accident, and the company didn't want to file it as a work accident. They didn't want to pay.
Yeah.
And they basically just called her to the office and had me and another person there and just berated this woman, threatening her with legal action, and with no basis, mind you, because she was absolutely right, and just humiliating her.
Oh my God. It's good,
And I
I
was,
think.
yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, no, I was going to say it's good then you're not in that company, or you're in a different environment right now.
Oh, yes,
It's
yes,
it's
yes.
a it's a good thing for you. I just want to ask you personally that do you think that women are easier targets for bullying or discrimination in a workplace, according to you?
From my experience, yes. Doesn't mean that the men aren't. The men in where I was were also viciously bullied. But when they stood up for themselves, when they got to the boiling point, they would back off for a while. And with women, they wouldn't. I don't know if that's because, well, it's just historical and societal. We're taught to be, patient and kind and smile, and don't make a fuss about it. Don't make a big deal about it. Don't be a bitch. Don't be hysterical. Just take it. It's not a big deal. And we're supposed to be submissive, right? I think it's
Yeah.
changing, but
Yes.
fortunately. But in my case, it was more women bullied than men.
I think it's, yeah, you can't have, sometimes you can't like always say that women are more bullied than men, or it can be equal. It could be that
Yeah,
one is more, yeah, it's like one is more, not even bullied, I would say discriminated than the other.
yes.
But this is just personal opinions of you, and
No, of course.
what we are talking about. The last few
No,
years.
just my personal experience
Yes,
there.
yeah, your personal experience from the last couple of years. So the last few
Yes.
years were obviously difficult in Portugal, at least when you were in Portugal. But I would like to think that even in this adversity, there must have been something positive for you.
Of course, several actually. Well, I learned new skills. That's the first. Things I didn't know I knew how to do, I learned I could. I learned how strong I am.
Yeah.
I learned how to be assertive, that I need to be more assertive and demand respect, because if that's what I give to someone, I demand the same back. And I wasn't assertive then. I was very insecure. I was afraid to lose the job. I didn't want to be unemployed anymore. So those are all very good lessons that I use to this day in my workplace. I don't let people disrespect me. I'm more assertive. I demand my rights. I don't go out of my way to create a fuss, but if a situation comes up, I speak my mind respectfully, always, but I speak my mind. I don't shut up.
Yeah. I
And
think
that's good.
through every difficult situation, you learn something.
Yes, yes, very much so. At least I see it that way. I think even in the darkest of times, there's always some silver lining to it. If nothing else, a lesson that you take for the rest of your life. That's how I see it. And I did learn mostly about myself and skills. I hate what happened to me, but in a way, and this is going to sound weird, but in a way, I'm happy it happened, because I don't think I would have learned some lessons about myself had I not go through that. It was very hard to go through it, but now I know better. And so I do better.
Yes, I agree. Sometimes you have to go through a difficult phase. I mean, not everybody, but people
Yeah,
who
for
want to grow, they have to at times go through some difficult phase and learn from it rather than, how do you say, cry over it. You learn you learn something. Like for you, maybe you did, not maybe you did do the job of like six different people, but you learned five other skill sets on the positive side that you did not have when you started there. So
exactly.
yeah, so there is still always
And I
like
made
a silver
friends.
lining to
That's another
everything.
thing. I made friends that I have to this day, people I care about, and I have, I hold dear that I met there that I wouldn't otherwise.
True,
That's
true,
always a plus for me.
true. Is there something you would have done differently during that period?
Well, yes, be more assertive and find out about my rights. I now know that they needed me more than I needed them.
Hmm.
And at that time, I didn't realize. I later found out that the girl that left the front desk was being bullied the same way I was, and she just decided to take off and move somewhere else. She had the opportunity, so she did it. I also know several employees sue them or were planning to sue them precisely for bullying and emotional damage. And some of them were men. And in that sense, because of that, I'd say I would be more assertive and find out about my rights. My family has lawyers for friends. I should have asked them, are they allowed to do this?
Yeah.
Not to say, not to lower my head and say yes all the time. I should have learned to say no then, but I learned since.
Yes, I think this skill of learning to say no, it comes
Yes,
with time. It's not easy for
it's very
most
hard.
of us to say no, but at some point you have to start saying it. It's for yourself. It's not You're not being selfish. It's not about the other person. It's about
No,
yourself, and you have to say no.
for our own
Again,
health, we have to learn how and when to say no. Be
yes,
economic with our time. I think
true. No,
it's
it's true. I completely agree with you on that. Now that you're in Finland for the last couple of years, and
yes,
you've left all this bad energy and vibe behind
yes,
in Portugal, you're back to your passion, which is journalism. How do
yes.
you feel you're, at a professional level right now in your life?
It's not where I still wanted to be, because I'm doing it pro bono, I guess. I'm doing it
Yeah.
for free at the moment. I have a day job and I'm doing that every chance I can. Um, but I love it. It's what makes me happy. It's what gets my blood pumping. I love to talk to people. I love to know their story, to share their story, to find out what's going on about whatever topic. And that really gets me going. That really makes me happy. So I've been doing that for almost 2 years. And I think soon enough I can do that as a full-time job, which will be a very, very welcome change.
Oh, that's good.
Uh, yeah, but it's exciting. I love it. It allows me to interact with a lot of people, know a lot of people, and find out about things in this country that I didn't know otherwise,
Yes, and
about laws, whatever's going on.
true, and it's good that you're now on my show, and you're sharing your story with what happened to you.
Yes,
And yeah,
it's
you
different. I'm usually the
yes,
one
it's
behind the.
different. Yes, for a change, yeah, that you're the
Yeah.
one, who's, yeah, like you said, not behind the screen, but facing the audience.
Yes. Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
it's a very good thing. So before we end, any words for our audience?
Yes. This is gonna sound like a self-help book, and I'm sorry in advance for that. But it's a mantra that I've been using for myself since I was 14 years old, and it helped me in the darkest times. And it's something. This is gonna sound so ridiculous, but it's something Oprah said. I'm not kidding.
Yeah,
Oprah Winfrey.
please
And
tell
I
us.
watched. Yeah, on her show. And she said, you do what you got to do until you can do what you want to do.
Oh,
And I
nice.
took that to heart because that's, well, how my mom raised me anyway. Work hard now, party harder later. And I took that to heart. And on my darkest moments, I repeated that in my head like a mantra. Do what you got to do now so you can do what you want to do later. And it's how I've been living. I got to work, I got to hustle. And that's what I recommend. It doesn't get dark every time, it doesn't rain all the time, you know, to
Yes.
quote a movie I like. So
I
just be hopeful and be optimistic. Things do get better. You just really have to work hard at it.
true. I no, it's very true. It's very true. I mean, there is always light at the end of the tunnel. You just have to follow the tunnel to reach the light. Because when it's
Yes,
dark, it's dark. But
it's hard, but
it's
you
hard.
get there eventually. Some
Yes.
tunnels are very long. Mine lasted 4 years,
Yeah.
but you get there eventually. And from my personal experience, what I would advise, whether it's a professional dark tunnel or personal, hold on to the little things, to the good things in your life, the good people, the fact, like if you like rain and it rained that day, or if you like snow and it snowed that day, or if you have that food that you love. I know it sounds trivial, but it does help. Hold on to the good things, how little and trivial they are, because they do help. At least for me, they did.
Yes, and I think it's true. What you're saying is true. It's the small things in life that give us joy. It's
Yes,
not this like, big, of course, big moments bring joy to us as well. But sometimes it's
yeah,
just very little things. And
yes.
no, it's true. It's very true. To end, I have to say that Barbara's experience of working in an unhealthy environment, it's not the first, and it most definitely will not be the last. I think it brings out the basic survival instinct of fight or flight. Which one will each of us take? There is no right answer to this question. Barbara is undoubtedly a bad bitch for being able to tackle a tough situation and see positivity in it. Barbara, thank you so much for joining
Thank
me
you for
on my
inviting me.
show and for
Thank
sharing your story. Thank you.
you. Thank you. Have a good day, everyone.
You too. Bye.